anything that I build to come across as a tech bro, like you must have this or the world is going to end
Right.
solution. So again, coming back to that idea, and all good designers should have this, like that empathy muscle.
I think makes a lot of sense, and I think empathy is sort of the core of what everything is, especially as AI starts to like potentially automate some of our process. How do we? It's important to keep that still in the loop, right? Um, I guess. Do you want to dive into hiring?
Yeah, I would love to. You began to talk about super ICs, and there's so much we could talk about. We could talk about that, trends in hiring. Where do you want to start?
I think what does I guess I'm interested in Ramp Labs. We haven't really discussed what that is.
Yeah.
But so that's division that you have at Ramp for basically AI experiments, right?
Yeah.
That you're working on. Why form that team? What does hiring look like? Tell us about that.
Well, first of all, I can't take the credit for Ramp Labs.
Sure.
That goes to Alex Stoffer, one of our like pioneer designers, and he rightly identified that we have this situation, and most companies will probably find this at some point, where there's trapped value within the company, which means that there are a series of experiments that we've run that almost yielded a fully fledged product, but didn't really fit into either the roadmap or the core product experience. And so it just kind of like languished and was left on the shelf. And the interesting thing about some of the AI experiments is, by virtue of the technology itself, they're super quick to spin up. And so we don't have to now say that like there's this R&D project, which is going to take us months of builds and design and what have you to ship. Can actually do it in hours, if not days, like and get it into customers' hands. So it's no longer trap value; it's actually going out into the world. And so that's the sort of like the core philosophy of why we formed labs. But there was another thing that I wanted to do, and TK, who is another member of the labs team, was we wanted to kind of engage more with the community at large that's thinking about AI in interesting ways, because we're a fintech product, and so not everyone thinks to come knocking on our door to talk about the deep esoteric problems associated with AI and building product around it. So we thought that, hey, if we start putting this stuff out there and we put a fun, natural spin on it, maybe we can engage more with folks who are like-minded. And of course, that's exactly what's happened. Now our DMs are blowing up with like all these kind of crazy founders and folks who've been thinking deeply about AI. And how does that track back to recruitment? Well, now you can probably naturally see where this is going. The more people that are engaging, the more eyeballs come on Ramp, and the more they're like, oh, I want to go work somewhere that does that type of thing. And so we start to get lots more interest and sort of a groundswell, particularly around like this sort of like this AI talent that traditionally maybe we wouldn't have been able to attract. So it has those really two core values. It's like releasing trap value and giving something back to the community so that they can play around with it and experience what we did and help us make it better. But it's also a chance for us to engage with the community and bring people into the ramp culture.
I love that. I think, yeah, having the ability to play, especially when you're always constricted to how do we optimize this experience, how do we, cater specifically to these types of users, the ability to try something off the beaten path that maybe doesn't fit into your specific OKRs or KPIs as creatives is so refreshing.
Yeah.
It's super fulfilling.
And I would imagine there would be a lot of product teams, larger context enterprise teams that would hear what you just said, hear about what Labs is doing and say, well, I would love to have an AI R&D team and make it effective.
Yeah.
How do you think about making the work that Labs is doing actually effective and have impact in the product?
So, I mean, without giving away all the secret sauce, we've already seen huge impact across the core product by some of the directions that we're pushing in with the Labs team. So they're exposing, because they're not restricted necessarily by the roadmap, or because we build a lot of these things ad hoc, we're not constricted by the engineering stack as it exists or the design system limitations. We're able just to kind of like build something pure, just for that one purpose. So it doesn't need to fit into the broader like ramp strategy. And that means that we can go at things much faster, and we can try experiments, and we can say, hey, like, let's run this model this way and see what it does. That then informs other teams that are thinking about AI, but don't have the resources to take some of those risks. And they can learn from both the mistakes that we make, but also the wins that we get from playing quickly.
Mm. And the second half of what we find interesting about Labs is that we think you're building one of the first AI design teams in the world. Very early, let's just say, right?
Well, I think Anthropic and OpenAI might have
Well,
something to say about that.
yeah, no, one of the first, very early. We can say like very early to constructing an
Yeah.
AI design team. Since there's not much of a precedent for such a team, how do you think about building it? You are setting the precedent by way of doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because if you're not native AI, then it's a lot more difficult to think about what's the advantage of just building a separate team when we already have a bunch of people and they can just learn quote unquote AI and bring it into the product. It turns out that that's not actually that easy. It's not easy to take a product that's X number of years old, flip it on its head, and just have people think about it in a different way internally, because there's all kinds of like hang-ups in traditional companies, from like politics to red tape, to process to roadmaps and customer needs and all this other kind of stuff. So sometimes it's better to just take a step back and say, like, we just need to start something net new. We need to put someone or some people into a place where they're not constricted again. So Labs was our version of doing that, totally R&D, off script, go crazy, go explore. My core AI team on the design side is, let's take some of those principles, but let's think about it through the lens of like improving our actual product offering. And so then we think deeply about how do we save customers time and money again, because that's our whole thing. So our design team on the AI side is doing just that. They're airdropping around the rest of the company, looking for folks that are struggling with or need help with AI initiatives, because it's 2025 and we signposted to everyone that they've got to do something in this space. And maybe they just don't have the time or space to fully give that justice. So my team can come in and help them with the learnings that we've made elsewhere, with all the work we did on first principles. We took a step back and we put a couple of weeks into just really going hard on a sprint, talking to all the different leaders around the company and building a set of first principles for what AI meant to ramp. And now we're kind of executing on that vision of walking around, finding where like folks are having these struggles, unblocking them, and building like, and this is really important, this reusable core pattern library, so that AI doesn't become 7 or 8 different flavors, but it's actually a cohesive conversation, and a library that follows you around the product.
How are you thinking about, we were just talking about hiring for Labs, but more broadly, hiring for design at Ramp. How are you thinking about that in this, as we said earlier, like exciting new time?
Yeah. So the way that I hire for Ramp is very different to how I think I've traditionally hired designers. And that's a lot to do with Ramp's culture. And we've talked about that a fair bit this evening, so I won't tread over all ground. But the one thing that Ramp values really highly, and it's the DNA of the company, is velocity. And this is a really important thing that I don't think a lot of like designers who apply to Ramp truly internalize. It's all out there. You can go read about us. You can go watch the material to understand why this company is successful. But you really have to understand that to be successful at ramp, you have to be super comfortable with ambiguity. You got to live in it because it's going to become your world. We expect our designers to be totally cool and comfortable with autonomy. Like, we're not looking for designers that are going to be led into problem spaces. If that's your jam, more power to you. There's a ton of FAANG companies that would love to have you. Like, they're always looking for consistent drivers. We are not that company. We are a company almost of IC misfits, where if you can dream it, you can make it. And we will give you the trust, the autonomy, the space to go build that thing. All we ask is that you try to work within our scope of like velocity. So you really embrace things like AI tooling to move your process faster. You don't sit there writing PRDs for hours and hours at a time. Instead, you go face to face with customers with those prototypes in the way that we were talking about earlier. Go make sure that this is a real problem. Go figure out how to engage with our UXR team. Like, we have been super smart. They have been super smart about building self-serve UXR in a way that I've never seen at any other company. So you're no longer stuck with, oh, I've got to put this plan together for UXR and it's going to take them a month to come back with results. No, we have figured out how to leverage AI to create self-serve. And so we're looking for designers who can think that way, who can build tools like that internally that make the design process faster and more efficient so that we can spend more time with customers learning about if this problem actually is a real problem, if the solution is a real solution, and just getting more and more product out the door.
What are some signs in a candidate that suggest they have velocity?
It's going to come back to that natural curiosity again. They're going to ask probing questions about how we are thinking through the change, the sea change of AI within Ramp. They're going to want to know more, and they're going to want, and I give away little tidbits, and they're going to want to dig more into that. That natural curiosity, that fun in the details, that's what I'm looking for. You really have to be able to spin a good yarn to work at Ramp. Like, you really do need to be able to bring me along for the story. And you can do that by engaging me in the questions that I'm asking you. So really create that, like, that back and forth. That's going to go a long way. And I'm going to recognize that you're someone that cares deeply about how and why to build product, as opposed to just coming into the interview with a pre-rendered script where you just try to, like, talk to me as quickly as you can about your experience and rattle off some metrics about, like, how successful a certain project was because you did X, Y, and Z. I don't care. I'm sorry, but I don't care. It's the same when I'm reviewing portfolios. Look, I'm grateful that some of you spend a lot of time really putting together a crisp case study. And, sometimes I might want to read that, but make that an option. Don't start with that. Because what I'm really looking to do is see if you're a good storyteller. And so weave the narrative for me as I go through your portfolio. Show me, for the love of God, show me your personality. Like, our websites, our personal sites, are one of the only opportunities we ever get to truly design for ourselves and how we want to be perceived. So spend a little bit of time, like, really thinking that through. I don't want to see another black and white website. I really don't. Like, please spend some time, like, putting some creativity, putting some personality into it. That's going to help me understand, like, where you're coming from. It's going to help me understand why you got into this game in the first place. Every project we do as designers, like, there's some fun anecdote, like, there's something that happened along the way. So tell me that. Don't bore me with all of the data. Like, I get it. Like, you're a product designer, and the expectation is that, like, you're moving the company metrics forward. And great, that is something that we have to do, but that's table stakes. That's table stakes. That's not you as a designer. So show me the rest. Show me the unvarnished truth and let that come out on the page.